I wasn't in the right state of mind mentally and emotionally.
Mr. Rutherford died because I was shallow and lonely and insecure.
No. Hey there, true crime enthusiasts. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we have an intense and thought-provoking episode lined up for you. We'll be diving into the shocking cases of girls who committed unspeakable crimes resulting in the sentencing of life imprisonment. Get ready to witness the reactions as the judge hands down these life sentences. There are many cases of girls who have killed their boyfriends and received life sentences. Some of these girls have reacted to their sentences with shock, disbelief, and anger. Others have expressed more remorse and sadness. Still, others have shown no emotion at all. One example of a girl who reacted with shock and disbelief was Jennifer Mee. Mee was 19 years old when she was convicted of first-degree murder in the death of her boyfriend, Michael Dunn. Dunn was shot and killed during a robbery in 2010. Mee was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Mee's reaction to her sentence was one of shock and disbelief. She said she did not mean to kill Dunn and was only trying to protect herself from him. She also said that she was sorry for Dunn's family and friends.
Follows the defendant in this case. The defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree as charged. So say we all.
Another example of a girl who reacted with remorse and sadness was Latoya Carter. Carter was 16 years old when she was convicted of second-degree murder in the death of her boyfriend, Tristan Bailey. Bailey was stabbed to death in 2012. Carter was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Carter's reaction to her sentence was one of remorse and sadness. She said she was sorry for Bailey's family and friends and wished she could take back her actions. She also said that she would use her time in prison to become a better person. Finally, some girls have shown no emotion when sentenced to life in prison. One example of this is Vonda Thomas. Thomas was 17 years old when she was convicted of first-degree murder in the death of her boyfriend, Tate Thomas. Tate was shot and killed in 2013. Thomas was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Thomas showed no emotion when she was sentenced. She simply stood up and walked out of the courtroom. The reactions of girls who have killed their boyfriends and received life sentences vary widely. Some girls are shocked and disbelieved, while others are remorseful and sad. Still, others show no emotion at all. There is no one right way to react to such a sentence. There have been several cases in recent years where girls have been sentenced to life in prison for killing their boyfriends. Some cases have involved domestic violence, while others have involved crimes of passion. In one case, a 16-year-old girl from Vadodara, India was sentenced to life in prison for killing her boyfriend's parents. The girl was adopted by the couple when she was 1 year old, and her boyfriend allegedly offered sedative-laced food to the couple and then smothered them to death with a pillow. The girl's boyfriend was also sentenced to life in prison. In another case, a 17-year-old from Las Vegas, Nevada, was sentenced to life in prison for killing her boyfriend's father. The girl and her boyfriend allegedly stabbed and cut the man's body 70 times. The girl's boyfriend was also sentenced to life in prison. In both cases, the girls were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. It is a rare sentence for juveniles, but it is sometimes given in cases where the crime is particularly heinous. Judges consider a number of factors when sentencing juveniles, including the offender's age, the severity of the crime, and the offender's criminal history. In cases where the crime is particularly heinous, judges may be more likely to sentence the offender to life in prison.
The sentence that was agreed upon by the parties. Ms. Halseth, in accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, you're going to be adjudicated guilty on count 1, conspiracy to commit murder. Count 2, first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon. Count 3, first-degree arson.
Even if they are a juvenile. The cases of these two girls highlight the tragic consequences of domestic violence and crime of passion. These crimes can have a devastating impact on the families and communities involved. In the United States, a life sentence is a prison term without parole. It is the most severe sentence that a court can impose. Life sentences are typically imposed for crimes such as murder, rape, and other violent crimes. Sometimes, life sentences may also be imposed for drug trafficking and other serious crimes. Life sentences for girls are relatively rare. In 2018, there were only 1,200 girls serving life sentences in the United States. It represents less than 1% of all prisoners in the United States. The majority of girls serving life sentences are African American or Hispanic. For several reasons, girls are less likely than boys to receive life sentences. One reason is that girls are less likely to commit serious crimes. Another reason is that judges are often more reluctant to sentence girls to life in prison. Despite the rarity of life sentences for girls, there are many high-profile cases in which girls have been sentenced to life in prison. One such case is the case of Cyntoia Brown, who was sentenced to life in prison at the age of 16 for killing a man who she claimed had hired her for sex. Brown's case sparked a national debate about the fairness of life sentences for juveniles. In recent years, a growing movement has been made to reform the juvenile justice system and reduce the number of juveniles sentenced to life in prison. In 2012, the Supreme Court ruled that mandatory life sentences without parole for juveniles are unconstitutional. This ruling has led to a number of states repealing their mandatory life sentences for juveniles laws.
I have prayed for a very long time to be able to meet with you.
Despite this progress, there are still many girls in the United States who are serving life sentences. These girls deserve our compassion and our support. We must work to reform the juvenile justice system so that no child is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As discussed earlier, reactions to life sentences for girls in prison vary widely. Some people believe that it is a just punishment for serious crimes, while others believe that it is too harsh and that girls should be given more opportunities for rehabilitation. Those who believe that life sentences are a just punishment for girls who commit serious crimes often argue that girls need to be held accountable for their actions and that they pose a danger to society. They may also argue that life sentences deter other girls from committing crimes. Life sentences being too harsh for girls often argue that girls are more likely to be victims of abuse and neglect than boys, and are less likely to have had the same opportunities as boys to develop into law-abiding citizens. They may also argue that life sentences deprive girls of the opportunity to grow and change, and they are more likely to reoffend if they are not allowed to rehabilitate. There is no easy answer to the question of whether or not life sentences are appropriate for girls who commit serious crimes. Considering all of the factors involved, the decision of whether or not to sentence a girl to life in prison should be made on a case-by-case basis. Here are some of the reactions to life sentences for girls in prison. Victims' families. Some victims' families believe life sentences are just punishment for the girls who harm their loved ones. They may feel that the girls need to be held accountable for their actions and that they pose a danger to society. Girls' advocates. Girls' advocates believe that life sentences are too harsh for girls, especially those who have been victims of abuse or neglect. They may argue that girls are more likely to be rehabilitated than boys, and that life sentences deprive girls of the opportunity to grow and change. The public. Public opinion on life sentences for girls is divided. Some people believe life sentences are just punishment, while others believe they are too harsh. Ultimately, deciding whether to sentence a girl to life in prison is a complex one that should be made on a case-by-case basis. For more of such thought-provoking videos, like and subscribe to us.